with me, StattoJoe, and I'm joined as always by Luke Sherwin. Luke, how's it going?
Not too bad, thank you, Joe. Lovely to be here as always on my Sunday evening and excited to talk about football. And there's been a lot of things to talk about this weekend.
Full transparency, this was not the show we had planned out whenever we were thinking about this over the weekend. We thought we were just going to be able to discuss a game of football between United and Liverpool. It was probably a nil-nil draw and complain about the big games never living up to the hype and all that usual stuff. But no, the flipping fans had to go and call the game off, and we were sat going, right, we need to try and work out what to talk about with those protests. This is the weekly phone-in show. We allow you to come on the stream if you want to come on the stream. I will send the link into the chat very, very shortly. But look, we're just going to start off straight away, and I just want to get you. Can you tell everybody what actually went on today?
Yeah, so it was a bit crazy. Man United and Liverpool were meant to kick off at 4:30 this afternoon, British time, and that was going to be grand. But Manchester United fans had decided that they would protest against the Glazers and against just the running of the club, mainly because of the European Super League, but also they haven't really been fans of the Glazers for a long time. There's been protests since around 2010. It's 11 years in the making. Fans were going to be peaceful. That was fine. The police were okay with that. Everyone was okay with that. It's going to be peaceful. But one thing led to another, and the Manchester United fans broke into Old Trafford. Weird. The Theatre of Dreams was absolutely smashed, became the Theatre of Nightmares as people broke windows, made their way into the pitch, onto the pitch. They ignored the sign that says "Stay off the grass." The disrespect that's
I
been
can't believe
shown.
it. Maybe they can't
200,
read. Maybe they can't read.
well, maybe they can. 200 or so Manchester United fans broke into Old Trafford and decided to protest. They had flares. They were doing all sorts. They were running, sitting on the goalposts. They were scoring unbelievable bicycle kicks and posting the videos on Twitter. They were stealing corner flags, and I quite enjoyed the corner flag adventures that we then
Mm,
saw for the rest of the day
yeah.
as the flag appeared around various places in Manchester. But yeah, there were green and gold flares were the main kind of thing used to protest, to show um, their dislike towards the Glazers and their support for the original colours of Manchester United back in the 1800s when they were formed, the original colours that they used to play in. It was a strange turn of events, and it's the first time that a game has been postponed because fans have broken in and protested. A wild ride. Joe, what do you reckon?
Strangest set of events I have ever seen. Especially, you do love to see Sky scrambling to try and work out what to talk about. Um, it, I had heard about these protests all week. It was all over social media, YouTube, Twitter, that these were going to be happening. How the club did not have the appropriate level of security to stop this from happening, I'll never know. And it appears in some of the footage. Now, it's not. I'm not saying this is what happened, but it appears that some members of the security team actually let the fans in. There's, I think there's a bit of a conspiracy going on. These guys were allowed in rather than like fighting their way in, and it did look like they were just able to stroll in, and get onto the pitch, no problem. I don't actually really have that big a problem with what happened in terms of things that were peaceful and didn't hurt anyone. The one thing I will say is anyone that was doing anything to hurt anyone or putting people in danger I think that's shameful. That shouldn't be happening, and I don't think that's okay. But I actually think what has been done today in terms of the protest, they could have done a sit-in protest, and let's say they got into the stadium, they could have just sat there all the whole time. They obviously did leave the pitch eventually. There were safety concerns, but what they've done is they've essentially prevented probably hundreds of millions of people from watching what is one of the biggest games in a Premier League season. So it's a small victory for the fans. What are your kind of opinions on it?
Um, Yeah, they've done very well to get global attention
Hmm.
during this game because, as you say, United versus Liverpool is a massive tie. Everybody around the world wants to see that because United and Liverpool are two of the biggest teams worldwide due to past success, and they just have a lot of fans all across the globe. And so, if their goal was to make a statement, they've absolutely done that. They've made a statement.
Yeah.
They've shown we are the fans, and football belongs to us. And if that's the message that they wanted to get across, then they have done that brilliantly. They've made it very clear to the Glazers, you're not going to sit here and carry on like you have done for the last 11 years since the last protests or whatever. They can't do that because these fans have made it clear we aren't going to let our team that we love so dearly play football if you guys are still in charge. I respect it. I do.
Yeah.
I really do. I think it's incredible what they've done, but I'm slightly disappointed by some fans who obviously went too far. If you're watching the Sky coverage and they were talking about how there's always going to be a couple of idiots, the people who are throwing flares up to the stage where the pundits would sit.
Yeah.
That's not on. The pundits haven't done this. They're part of Sky, yes, and you can argue they're just taking money and blah 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 and causing all of the financial issues, but it's not their fault. They're ex-footballers being paid to talk about football. You can't blame them. They're not going to turn that down because wee Gary from Liverpool thinks it's a disgrace. And so the people throwing that and throwing cans of beer at the stage, I think, were unnecessary
Yeah.
and not in the spirit of the game that we
No.
love, not at all. But the ones who were peaceful, who came in, the guy who scored the bicycle kick, I loved that. I thought that was great.
What a
What a
finish.
finish! Sign him up. But that was fine, and all of the peaceful stuff I think is great and really made a difference. And obviously, it's made a difference in that the game's been postponed.
Mhm.
But yeah, I did enjoy Sky flapping and basically trying to improvise and figure out how do we fill now 90 minutes worth
Yeah.
of football. Like, what do we do? Surprise Graham Souness didn't start singing or something. I thought that would have been great. I was kind of disgusted at one stage when Roy Keane referred to it as soccer. I was
I
like,
know.
what? What are
Yeah,
you,
well,
Roy
what are
Keane?
you talking about?
What are you doing, Roy Keane? Of all people, I guess I don't know. Maybe Gaelic football is football to him,
Hmm.
and soccer is soccer. But yeah, I was confused by that, to say the least.
I thought Carragher and Neville once again did wonders. I thought they were fantastic. And I don't know if you saw this, but it was whenever they were first talking to them, whenever they still weren't sure whether the game was going to go ahead. And Gary was talking about the fans protesting. And the presenter, Dave, who I actually think's great as well,
Yeah,
went to speak. And Gary was like, nah, Dave, let me speak here, Dave. Now's not the time, right? I've got something I need to say here. Basically, shut up, Dave. I'm talking, right? And I thought it was brilliant. He was like, it was almost like he shot down Sky itself. That's kind of how it felt. It was like he's talking against the broadcasters. Down you go. See you later. Yeah, I think it's very, very effective in that not only will fans be disappointed the game's not on, like fans of the clubs, neutrals were disappointed. I was disappointed the game wasn't on, obviously.
me too. I was so
Broadcasters,
ready to watch a lovely 0-0.
yeah,
I
same.
was so
Oh,
ready to
so
watch
excited.
that game.
So excited. Broadcasters will be disappointed because they'll have been building up to the game. I'm sure, like, you know what America's like with their TV ads. They'll have been, all over it. You've got a big global audience in Asia. You've essentially what these fans have done, and it wasn't even that many. Like, let's say, I say not that many. I mean, in comparison to the viewing figures, right? So, like, let's call it 5,000 fans, maybe in total. It could be more, maybe 20,000. I'm not sure how many it was.
There was
But
200 were in the ground. That's it.
200 were in the ground. So,
Yeah.
so 200 that were in the ground effectively prevented hundreds of millions of people from watching the game. And now the Premier League have to reschedule it for a time that might not be suitable or that won't be as good because the Sunday half 4 slot is the main event slot of any Premier League week, usually,
Yeah.
unless it's the Saturday half 5, just depending on fixtures. But I think not having the game on was the right call because you could never be certain about player safety. And that's obviously making sure everybody's safe is the main call, is the thing that you want to be like ensuring happens. I personally have felt annoyed with a certain section of Liverpool fans who have kind of gone out of their way to go and find photos of things that weren't peaceful and then put in quotes peaceful protest. I want to say to you, if you're one of those people that attitude is not helpful in any way. You should be you should be siding with these United fans because your owners are just as bad as the Glazers in terms of trying to just use your money or your club to make money. And it really, really annoyed me because I was like, "What? This is very powerful." And it was, I would say, 99.5% of people were just there to protest peacefully, get their thoughts out, and that was it. And there's always, and the Sky said it, and I'll say it here as well. There's always going to be a couple of idiots who are going to spoil it for everybody else, and that's always going to happen. You're never going to get perfection anywhere. And for the Liverpool fans to be going out of their way to saying things like we should get all 3 points or they should have a points deduction, listen up. You guys also should have a points deduction if you're going to go that way because anyone involved with that Super League, I feel, should be really harshly punished. And you're no better than United. And actually, the irony in punishing the clubs because of their fans' actions, whenever they're not even at the minute punishing the clubs for their owners' actions, for me would just be really distasteful. Really distasteful.
I think you're spot on. I think Carragher kind of touched on this on the coverage and said, Liverpool fans who are on their high horse right now, you need to hop off. You need to settle yourselves because your owners put out that video, and a lot of Liverpool fans have accepted that as, oh yeah, sweet, sweet, let's move on. Which I think is more of a disgrace than some of the stuff that's happened today, because they seem to have just moved on and forgotten about it. It's a travesty what's happening with football at the moment. At this rate, we need England to win the Euros to bring peace to England. But I don't know. I'm ready for a 2018 summer again, where everyone's having the time of their life. But yeah, I think Liverpool fans need to do more, but United fans also need to do more, but in a more peaceful manner. Go into the ground, absolutely, sure. Do your thing. Just don't harm anyone physically, because violence will never lead to that much change. In this case, in the game of football, violence will just bring about more issues. Violence will bring about stricter sanctions. Violence will ultimately mean that fans will be kept from going to games. And that's what we've been wanting for a year. We've been wanting to be able to go back to football matches. And violence will prolong that and stop fans from being allowed in because people have seen that that works now.
Yeah.
It works for fans not to be there. It's happened for a year. Violence is not the answer in this case.
Definitely not. And I would never, ever agree with violence. I actually do feel that in some ways, the fans getting on the pitch has made for far more powerful images and has made far more of an impact, and actually in some ways a positive impact than outside the ground. Now, I would never encourage anybody to break into a stadium, right? Obviously not. That's not what I'm saying. But there was a lot. Again, there was a large proportion of those people who went in, who just went in and didn't cause any harm. They simply stood on the pitch, maybe jumped out with their mates or whatever, maybe scored a goal, because if you're on the Old Trafford pitch, that's a video you could share forever, right? But they went out there, and ultimately, the images that we got from that were far more impactful than the masses outside, because people were like, oh my goodness, these guys are in the stadium. Another thing I do want to say as well, I think this is a valid point I feel like I need to bring up, is that these protests would never be happening to this extent if fans were in the stadium, because the fans would just go to the game and then during the game make their feelings known. That's the way they would do it, right?
Yeah.
So this is completely a consequence of fans not being at grounds, obviously. And, you could argue that the players' safety could be called into question if the fans were in the stadiums and causing that amount of disturbance during a game, So it could have been the same, if not worse, if fans were on the ground. So I felt quite strongly about this. I really did, because I thought what happened 2 weeks ago was disgusting. It really upset me, actually, and I'm a plain old Newcastle fan. Like, I don't have any stake in the Super League, and it did upset me. And you know, I'm just glad that people are uniting against uh, these owners. So,
So,
so yeah.
yeah, I think there's not much more really to say on the topic. I think we've kind of covered a few different things. Um, but if you want to share your thoughts, feel free to hop on. There's a link in the chat. And while maybe we're waiting for people to join, United were due to play today against Liverpool in a game that potentially had ramifications for the league title.
Yeah.
If United failed to win today, then they would have handed the Premier League title to Manchester City. Joe, it looks like Man City have won the league.
Mhm.
It's looked like that for a while. What
Yeah.
did you think of their performance yesterday, and what do you think Man City look like going forward?
I think I think Man City are impressive in that they win games without ever being that great. As in, they don't particularly perform amazingly, and they still get results. Their 2 goals were scored in like 3 minutes. You know, they scored 2 goals, and that was in those kind of couple of minute segments, and that was it. Sterling is, for me, almost playing himself out of the Euros. He's been poor, hasn't he? He's struggled for form. He really
I
has.
agree. Yeah, and I think especially when he's playing alongside Phil Foden,
I
who
know.
can play exactly the same position as him, but plays at the moment a million times better.
Hmm.
But as you mentioned, Man City, 2 minutes is all that it takes in football. 2 minutes changed that game yesterday,
Hmm.
and fair play to them. Well, not don't get it wrong. Man City had all of the attack. They had all of the ball. Palace didn't look like doing anything for most of the game. And that was a bold tactic from Pep to play 4-2 with Aguero slightly behind Gabriel Jesus. Aguero, who's looked slow,
Yeah,
sluggish for the last few games, he's
I
been
know.
told, right, you're the creative spark in our team now. And fair play to him, he took his goal fantastically well. He did
Hmm.
very well to get the goal. But a bold from Pep. But it paid off. They made a lot of changes. They played Ake, played Mendy, they played Fernandinho, they played Torres, they played a weakened team, obviously with PSG in mind. And it paid off because Man City have a ridiculous squad depth. They've done very well to get that. And I think, yeah, they're going to win the league. And they've done phenomenally over the last 10 years to be a dominant force as much as you can in the Premier League, in
Hmm.
a league that changes almost every season. And I think the only way is up, really, because I see them in the summer buying a striker. I see them in the summer strengthening because they've got the money. Why would you
Yeah.
not? Maybe selling a few players. Obviously, Aguero's leaving, a main striker, because I don't think Pep likes Gabriel Jesus enough to trust him
Well,
as
it's,
his
isn't it
main
isn't it
striker.
weird? He's got a striker there, I suppose, he doesn't use him very often.
Yeah,
So I think you're right. Also, interestingly, this season, let's not forget that City, after their first 8 or 10 games or something, were in the bottom half of the league. So
yeah,
it just shows you, A, what a strange season this has been, but B, the ridiculous run of form City have had since December. So yeah, and I think they're going to win the league by this week. So
yeah.
that's that's the title race done. But
It's
as you
weird
guys
because it went
know,
it went under the radar. Man City's run of victories, like whenever they broke the record
yeah,
for most consecutive victories, I was so shocked. I was like, "What? Where? 17 wins in a row? Where's this come from?" And
I know.
it's because they were languishing in mid-table at the start of the season. They looked all out of sorts, and then they just got a win, and then got another one, and nobody was surprised because Man City should have been winning these games,
Hmm.
but then they just kept going, and wow, all of a sudden, top of the league, having a laugh.
It's like mad that the Cookstown Cafu just took down Man City single handedly. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
Uh,
he's one of the greatest players to ever grace the Premier League.
Ever exist. So, as you guys know, it's a phone-in show on a Sunday, and you always have the option to come on and join us live. on the show, and this week we're having our first ever phone in. Technically not, but technically yes, because Gareth came on as a replacement on Thursday night. He did brilliantly. And as you know, he's ridiculously biased when it comes to all things Manchester United. So, Gareth, there we go. We're on now.
Good evening, boys.
All right, Gareth, welcome to the show.
How are we?
Not too bad, thank you.
Chat to us, Gareth. What do you want to say?
So just on today, I agree with the protests. I think that bar the absolute muppet who threw something towards the Sky TV pundits, I think if it was done professionally, I think it was done. There was not a warning as such, but it was talked about a while ago. It was talked about a couple of weeks ago. United fans did come out and say, "Look, we are going to protest," and I think the police and United were aware of that. Am I annoyed I didn't get to watch us play Liverpool? Yeah, of course. I think every United fan up and down the country will be. It's one of the biggest games in football history. It's one of the biggest rivalries in football history. So, I think Jimmy Carragher hit it in the head. That it was all done peacefully. And again, he reiterated that throughout. It's difficult to stomach. It's good to see that fans have obviously got in and voiced their opinions. Do I condone violence? Not at all. I don't think anybody in football condones
Thank
violence.
Goodness. Oh, thank goodness.
I know it's Jimmy Jumper, you would think I would, but no, I definitely don't. And I think that any trouble has happened in Manchester, people need to take a hard look at themselves because, in my opinion, I think they're just hooligans. They're not proper supporters of the club, and in my opinion, they're just as bad as the Glazers because they say that they want the Glazers out, and the Glazers are running our football club. It's not even United. It's fans like that, the whole way through football who are ruining it for everybody. Would I have loved to get in to have a kick out in Old Trafford? Absolutely. Who's the right man didn't? Protest or no protest. I'd happily have a Stuart chase me for 5 minutes. But listen, it was all done peacefully, as I said, and City have won the league. It's annoying to admit that too. I don't think anybody's catching them. It's a weird season, but hopefully the Glazers get the message and pack up their bags and scoot.
It's almost poetic, actually, that it happened this weekend of all weekends, in which there was a mass social media blackout by so many of the big organisations and clubs in England to say we don't support online abuse. Because in that case as well, it's a small portion of the fan base who are racially abusing players, who are sending abuse to players constantly. I think we almost see a small glimpse of that today in the protest. We see small portions of the fan base who are idiots. And the vast majority are there doing something peacefully, using social media properly, going into the ground and having those pictures taken of them with the flares just standing there and everything. That's a powerful image that will go down in football history.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a small portion of the fan base who will take their chance, run with it, and make mistakes, both online and in person.
And the other thing, Gareth, just before you head on, and we really appreciate you coming on and bringing your thoughts, is in some ways, got a wee break there for the Roma game. It's not a bad thing, There's let's take a positive spin on anything. You've now got
the game might be
playoff.
replayed now though tomorrow.
What?
There's talk of it being played tomorrow because Liverpool are like the Liverpool players and squad are in Manchester. The game needs to be played, so tomorrow might, and because United aren't playing until Thursday anyway, then there's a long enough gap that they could justify it. Also, just because the season is so busy, it's a difficult one to find a time. I know it's not ideal, but Gareth, any thoughts on when the game should be rescheduled on, or what do you reckon?
Listen, it's not the players' fault that this has happened today. Neither sets of players' faults. I think that if Sky have the opportunity to play the game tomorrow, play at 3 p.m., 5 p.m., 4:30 p.m. kickoff. But as you said, look, both teams are in Manchester. United are at the lorry. Liverpool squad are a mile up the road. Put a traffic ban in place, get the teams to the stadium, and push the fans back. The fans. Yes, we've seen and heard of a couple of people being arrested this afternoon, things you never want to see. But look, if we can go ahead and get the game played, yeah, but then does it have a knock-on effect against Roma on Thursday night? Of course it does, but am I confident that we're up those 4 goals? Yes, I am, but at the same time, you don't know what that does to the players' mentality. The players came out, it was put on the internet there that the likes of Maguire, Bruno Fernandes, just to name but a few, Luke Shaw, they all tried to come out of the hotel and speak to fans and, to get in amongst them. But obviously they weren't allowed to do that for their own protection. But look, it's a difficult one. Obviously, every fan of football wants to see this game. It's not just, I'll maybe watch that later on. I would like to see the game played at some stage this week. But then obviously that has a knock-on effect on UEFA and the Europa League. So I think we'll just wait and see what happens. I don't really think it matters anymore because everybody knows that City have already won the league. So
yeah,
I would like to see it being played this week. But again, it's up to the Premier League and UEFA.
Gareth, a pleasure, mate, for having you on. We're going to continue on, so you're getting kicked off. But thank you so much. Every week, if you want to come on and join 5 minutes, mate, you're always more than welcome. But have a good week, mate. See you soon.
Cheers, boys. And you, good luck.
See you later.
Interesting that Gareth touches on the idea that the game is pointless. But in reality, it's really not. It's really not, because there are top 4 ramifications still to play for. Liverpool more so than United, but United aren't actually guaranteed second place. They aren't guaranteed even third place. And so it's still a big game for United, because if they were to lose this game, they'd be 6 points ahead of Chelsea. And in this season, more than anything can happen.
Yeah,
United could drop and lose 2 games. There's the league table. As you can see, United could lose 2 games. Chelsea could win those games, and suddenly they're on the same amount of points. Chelsea are probably ahead on goal difference, because it's tight on goal difference, and 2 wins and 2 losses could swing that massively. So it's a big game for top 4. Joe, who do you think after this weekend's matches? Who do you think gets top 4?
I was dreading you asking me this question, actually, because if we look at the table here, I think the cutoff for me is Liverpool. I don't think Everton are going to reach top 4. From 4th to 7th, we have 7 points separating 4 teams. I think Leicester are going to hold on. So I think obviously City and United. I don't think United are going to drop out of the top 4. I think they're safe enough.
Yeah.
I think Leicester should hang on, because I hadn't realised they had so many points.
Yeah.
So I think I'll be okay as well. But you see the current top 4? I don't know if that's changing.
No, me neither. I think that's probably how it's going to end up. I think Leicester last season absolutely pooed the bed, and they did a discredit to themselves, because they had done so well to get into position and just didn't do well. This season they could potentially finish second. Unlikely, but possible. They're going to finish top 4 most likely, and an FA Cup final. Great season from Leicester. But I think, United are safe. If they get a point, they're effectively top 4 confirmed, because they'll be 12 above Spurs. Especially if Spurs were to go and lose this game against Southampton or something, or draw it, then it would be confirmed. But United are confirmed. Leicester, I think, are safe. I don't think they're guaranteed third place, because Chelsea could easily overtake them. But I do think those top 4 are there.
I think it's a really interesting race, and Andy makes the same point that you were saying about how it isn't a pointless game. The rivalry, and also because Liverpool still have an outside chance of making top 4, and football is all based on hope, and that's why the European Super League was such a disgrace, because you were taking hope out of the game. It's very possible, and I say possible. I don't mean very possible, but it's certainly there's a reality somewhere where Liverpool make top four because of calamitous results for other teams. So to maybe take that away would be be wrong. But I certainly think that Liverpool will have even a race to get Europa League because West Ham. I think West Ham could still get Europa League place. Do you know? I do. I think they will get a Europa League place.
Well, there's the helpfulness in this case in that Man City have won the League Cup, so it's unlikely, or no, it's confirmed now that sixth place I think gets Europa League as well because they've won that. So Liverpool in sixth place, I think I'd back them. I'm not sure I'd back them to get above West Ham because West Ham are playing some great football, but I do back them to get sixth place. So I think Europa League is probably likely for them, which is grand. There's also the Europa Conference League position that maybe they could go in.
Is that starting next season?
I think it might be. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I thought I saw something.
How could anyone be bothered, honestly? Like,
do you know what? Tottenham could actually win a trophy that way if they were to finish seventh and get into it. Shots fired, but it's true. It's true. But yeah, a fascinating weekend, I think, for top four football because Southampton, who haven't been doing really well, played Leicester.
Yep.
I thought Leicester should win that game. They should have won that game, and they didn't. A draw is harmful for them because if they had got 2 more points, on 65, they're 10 above West Ham. You back them. You back them to stay
pretty
there.
Pretty safe.
So I think they've missed an opportunity there. Great to see Johnny Evans on the score sheet. Good player, lovely Northern Irishman. Went to Belfast High School like myself, so he's a great man. But a really interesting game happened last night, Everton Villa. Spoilers, Joe and I actually watched that game together. And we thought it was a really fun first half, really good first half. But Everton again showed the reason why they're not going to finish in the top four. The reason why they've no longer won the title like they had in October. They've been so inconsistent all season. They really lacked James last night. I think he was definitely part of their game plan, and him being injured in the warm up was a big loss. But you still back the likes of Andre Gomez, Alan, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. It will be not so much Sigurdsson.
No, sorry. Let me just say this because I said this to you last night. That Gylfi Sigurdsson is the most mediocre football player that's ever existed. Like for me, he's never good. He's never really that bad. He's just there. He's just mediocre. He just kind of fits a role. He does whatever, but I just think he's. He frustrates the life out of me. I don't even know why. I'll be honest. I don't even know why I find him so frustrating.
He's a game winner though. Sometimes he's a solid 6 out of 10 every week. 6 out of 10 every week. But then some weeks he'll score 2 from 30 yards, top bins, and it'll be unbelievable. That's come out of nowhere. But Everton very inconsistent. Don't think they've got a chance now with top 4. They're 9 points off. They do have a game at hand, but very unlikely, especially the form that those other teams are in. Chelsea looking pretty good.
And I think
Chelsea.
I think they play Villa again. So I think they hadn't played Villa this season. I think Watkins mentioned in his interview that they were playing twice in 10 days. So I actually think that one of their games is against Villa again. So that'll be interesting. But then the next game you were about to say was about Chelsea Fulham.
Absolutely. What did you make of the Chelsea game?
Not a surprising result. As a Newcastle fan, I'm absolutely delighted. What a result for me. Chelsea's team was actually pretty strong as well. They didn't rest as many players as I thought they were going to. They tried what I said I thought they were going to do against Real Madrid, and they put Werner on the left. He didn't play solely in the middle. And then Havertz decided that he would just show up for a day and score a couple of goals. So
Havertz has been good since Tuchel came in. He's had a few really good games, and for someone who's still only 21, I'm very excited about watching Kai Havertz in the Premier League for the next 5 seasons. I think he's got real potential. Technical ability is phenomenal. His head is phenomenal. He's a good player. Werner on the left played well. I think, just a really solid victory. Fulham were never going to be unbelievable. Fulham were never going to have a lot of the ball. Fulham were never going to have too many chances on goal. Chelsea shut up the shop at the back, but played really well. Got 2 goals. Great win. Simple. I find myself saying that more and more as Tuchel carries on.
Yeah.
The more games he plays, the more consistent Chelsea are playing.
They're just very efficient, aren't they? With what they do, it's almost a stereotypical German efficiency. You know, they just kind of score a couple of goals. They keep a clean sheet and then they move on. There's nothing really particularly. No, they do play some good football. I'm not saying they're not spectacular. What I mean is they don't go out of their way to make games entertaining. Right? They do the job. They win the game. They win it pretty effectively, and then they just go on to the next one. It's kind of a cycle with them. They just continuously moving through and winning pretty consistently. Obviously, they drew against Real Madrid, but like you can almost see that as being a win, getting the away goal. Yeah, and it actually, I'll share the table again just to show that really the relegation kind of side of things is slowly kind of firming itself up, because with just 4 games to go, Fulham are 9 points away from safety, meaning they have to win all 4 of their games. Well, they have to win 3 at least and draw 1. So
not necessarily, because I back Newcastle not to win any games, to be fair, in their last 4. So Newcastle
our last game's against Fulham. So
hello.
If Fulham were to win their next 3 games, then and Newcastle didn't get any points, then the last game of the season would be Newcastle Fulham for the relegation playoff. That being said, Newcastle's second last game was Sheffield United, so I kind of think we'll get at least a point there. But it's only 1 point, I think, or 2 points, 3 points from safety for everybody else. West Brom, I would argue, are in the mud, really. Although they've got a game in hand, I suppose. But I think West Brom are going down. I don't see
West Brom game. They have a game tomorrow night against Wolves.
Yeah, which they could win, actually.
They weirdly could win, because you'll see there in their form, they have 2 wins in their last 5 games.
Yeah.
2 wins out of their last 3 games, one of which is against Chelsea, which is nuts. But they're not a bad team at times, and Wolves have been distinctly average now, basically since Raul Jimenez got injured. I think Raul Jimenez's injury has revealed that Wolves do not have a good squad. They don't have a deep player pool to pick from, and they've also, in my opinion, showed that Adama Traore is the most overrated player to ever play in the Premier League, because he's like Gylfi Sigurdsson, but like times 100, because he's consistently a 2 out of 10, but some games he will show up and be a 10 out of 10. Like against City last year, phenomenal. But this season he went 27 games without a goal or assist. Why is that? It's because Raul Jimenez isn't in the box with a clinical finisher. He's not there to put his head on the ball, because that's all Adama Traore can do, is run quickly and then put a ball in the middle. Raul Jimenez was putting them in the back of the net last season. So I don't know. I think West Brom could actually win that tomorrow night, but I do agree. I think they're down. I think the 3 that are in the relegation zone at the moment are the 3 that will go down.
I think it did look tight until Newcastle decided to go 4 games unbeaten, which they had no right to go with those games. But I want to finish up on Newcastle, because I do have a lot to say about that game. But quickly, let's mention Brighton Leeds, which was a shot. I thought Leeds would win that game, to be honest. I was really surprised to see that Brighton won that game. Danny Welbeck scored an absolute screamer. I don't know if you saw it. Did you see his touch?
I haven't actually seen the goal, unfortunately.
Oh, so he basically, the ball's high in the air, right? And he, on the half volley, does a Cruyff turn half volley thing to go past the defender and then hits it first time into the top corner. Beautiful goal. You do love to see Danny Welbeck scoring some goals.
It's nice to see, because Danny Welbeck is the player who has the least technical ability that's ever played for both United and Arsenal.
Yeah.
I don't get it. He's like a donkey most of the time when he's running. He cannot control the ball well, but sometimes, and I'm glad to see him playing more because I do like him. He seems like a nice lad.
Yeah.
I think this season he's been able to show that he's actually an alright player, and Brighton seems to suit him well. A team that likes to get a lot of chances, lots of XGs. StattoJoe loves an XG.
Big XG, big XG.
Welbeck loves to score goals, so yeah, I'm happy for him. I do think, just before we get on Newcastle, if these three teams go down, I think it's sad because two of those teams came up last season. I think they've been unfortunate in this season in that not much money's been spent. There's not been a lot of transfers. There's not been a normal year, and they haven't had the same opportunity that they would have done. West Brom have played this whole season effectively with a championship level squad, with Mateus Pereira, who's a phenomenal player, great player, and he's been their only shining light, really. Callum Robinson up top's done well. He's played well, but generally the rest of their squad is championship quality. I reckon they'll do quite well next season in the championship if they can keep on the hold of their players.
Which I don't see why they wouldn't either. I don't see how they wouldn't.
Pereira will go. Pereira will go.
That's probably about it.
Fulham are playing with arguably like a League One squad. They have a really bad bunch of players. And Scott Parker, I think, deserves credit. Not enough credit to get him the Tottenham job, but a decent amount of credit with doing what he's done with that squad, because I really don't rate a lot of the Fulham players. They just look lost in the Premier League. So a few of them, Lookman, I reckon, has won them quite a lot of points this year. I'd love to look into that and see how many points he single-handedly won them by scoring goals.
And lost them with that chip. Let's not forget the chip penalty.
Let's not forget. But apart from that, he's done well. But fair play to Leeds and fair play to Bielsa. Despite losing yesterday, are very safe, very comfortable, mid-table, done really well this season with minimal funds spent. So they deserve a lot of credit.
Their squad has hardly changed, and he's been able to bring them up, and they could finish 8th, 9th, because it's very, very close in that kind of midsection. Like they could. I'm saying they could. I'm not saying they will. I'm saying they could. Let's not put any firm predictions down. We all know how bad my predictions were during the Six Nations.
It's true. It's true.
But I do think with those kind of squads, the fall of Mitrovic is kind of strange because like he was an okay sub at Newcastle when we in the Prem, but for some reason it's just like, I don't know, just seems to be lost at Fulham.
It is strange that I nearly said Bronson Reid there, but it's Cordova Reid, isn't it? Plays up top, not the Australian wrestler. I don't understand why he's playing so much. I don't understand why he's getting a lot more chances than Mitrovic. I get Mitrovic has a temper, but we did start to see this too at the end of last season in the Championship. Didn't start the playoff final. Some could say it's because of injury. Some could say it's because he probably would have got sent off. But it is sad to see Mitrovic fall. But yet, no matter how few games he plays for Fulham, he'll play for Serbia and he'll score. He will score goals for Serbia.
So weird. So it's like Kyle Lafferty. Well, Kyle Lafferty's scoring goals now.
David Healy. It's like David Healy.
David Healy.
Yeah. The greatest player, arguably, to have played in my lifetime for Northern Ireland and scored so many goals. Is our record scorer for country, Northern Ireland, and yet for Fulham, for Sunderland, for whoever he played for, he was shocking.
Oh my days! Like he's just one of those players, and he just seems to gets to international level, which is why I always say that international football is a bit crap sometimes, unless it's a major tournament, because there's players who couldn't do it in the Championship, and yet at international level they score goals for fun.
Like weirdly, Leonardo Trossard can score a goal for Belgium, but he hits the post every time he shoots.
Every time. Yeah, he just forgets to put finesse on. He forgets to hit R1, and he just hits it in a straight line. And obviously, the one thing I want to talk a bit longer, a bit more in detail, kind of about this Newcastle game, because I'm not even saying this as a Newcastle fan. It wasn't a great game. It really wasn't that great. Like, and I'll objectively say if it was a good or bad game in terms of a neutral perspective. It was quite scrappy in midfield, actually. I didn't really feel like there was a lot of passing going on. I'll be interested to look at the stats and see what they say, and we'll get into that in a bit later on. But in general overview, it's funny because I actually, and this sounds so bad, but it finished 2-0 to Arsenal, and I was like, I don't even really care. Like, I didn't expect to get anything from the game. I can't even be disappointed because in our last 4 games, we drew with Spurs, we beat West Ham, we beat Burnley, and we drew with Liverpool. So I'm kind of like we've in our 4 of our last 5 games we haven't lost. So like I'm kind of like,
What's the big difference, Joe, between this game? Joe Willock isn't allowed to play. Joe
Joe,
Willock
Joe,
wasn't allowed
Joe
to
the
play.
Pillock Willock. Yeah.
He's not allowed to play because that's his parent club, obviously.
Mhm.
And so I think genuinely he could have done a bit, could have done well today because it was scrappy in midfield, and he might have been okay. But to be fair, were you expecting any less when you see Mohamed El Nani starting? When you see him playing a game of football, you know it's not going to be a technical masterclass.
No. And what's funny
Um,
for Arsenal's first goal is that Aubameyang completely missed the ball. It like seemed, I don't know, he missed the ball and then it bobbled off his foot or something to set up El Nani. It was one of the strangest things I've ever seen in terms of a goal. But again, like I wasn't even annoyed. I don't know if it's because I'm just like more relaxed about the relegation side of things, and also I didn't think we were going to get any points. I thought the only points we were going to get, because our last 8 games, because I think we have Leicester and Man City in our next 2 games, right? So our last 8 games were Spurs. We're playing 3 kind of lower table teams, so Burnley, Sheffield United, and Fulham. Then the other 5 were our City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs, West Ham. Was that all 5 of them? On Arsenal, right? So West Ham, who were what 4th when we played them, and Joe the Pillock Willock scoring, saving our skin. He did the same thing against Spurs. I just think it's one of those things. There's Jacob in the chat. Hi, Jacob. How's it going? What are your thoughts on the protest, Jacob? Just very quickly, put it in chat and let us know what your thoughts were on those protests. But yeah, overall as a game, pretty poor. Fair play to Arsenal. They got a win, and actually, I thought it showed a bit of squad depth because they were saying on commentary it was 8 changes. But when I saw the team, I was like, that's quite a strong team they've put out. Let me show you here on the. Let me show those who are watching. We'll describe it for podcast listeners, but on the team itself, like not a bad team. You know, they dropped Leno, which I actually think was a good idea because there's someone who's out of confidence.
Well, Leno
Anyway,
did really well, to be fair, midweek, I thought, against Villarreal. Made a massive save to keep them in the tie. But you're absolutely right. Arsenal have done well here to rest players. Being able to start Willian and Aubameyang, who didn't start midweek, is great for them. Starting El Neni. I've used El Neni earlier, but I do actually quite like him. I think he's solid enough. And Ceballos obviously can't play on Thursday night. So it makes sense to play him. It's good that they could bring in David Luiz as well. And as you said, there's a decent number of changes made there. And Arsenal did what they had to do. They went about their business. You'll see there on the left-hand side the attack momentum meter that Joe loves so dearly.
I absolutely love it.
They absolutely dominated. They were all over Newcastle. There were periods where Newcastle looked like doing something, but in saying that, they never actually looked like scoring a goal. They never really looked like there was a clear chance for them to put it into the back of the net. Arsenal were very, very business orientated. They got what they needed to do, and they did it. I thought fair play. Wasteful, though, very wasteful. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that Arsenal had 19 shots, I think.
Yeah.
5 on target. If that's not a testament to Aubameyang being a really bad finisher at times, I don't know what is. 14 shots off target is mad.
It's the same problem we had on Thursday night against Villarreal. They didn't have a high enough shot on target rate, and I know it's a cliche to be like, you just need to get your shots on target, but a lot of the time you do just need to get your shots on target because, you can't, obviously, I sound like Michael Owen here. You can't score goals if you don't hit a shot on target. And considering they had 19 shots, even, you should be getting more shots on target. Like, I mean, Newcastle only have 5 shots. We'll not talk about that. Like, we the same number of shots as I had on target. But when you look at kind of looking at the stats, right? Arsenal absolutely cleaned Newcastle. But watching the game, it never really felt like that. But look at those passing accuracies. Oh, even Newcastle managed a good pass accuracy, 87%. Arsenal 91, but like 581 accurate passes. They had so much of the ball, it's just, I don't know. It was just one of those games. It was just like, oh, all well. One thing I do really want to bring up, and I feel like I need to stress, is that after the last few months of pain watching Newcastle play football, I know that we didn't get a lot of shots today, and I think a lot of that was because Arsenal defended very well. To be fair to them, I thought both David Luiz and Gabriel had decent games, but the style of football that we play now is far better. So we play this 5-3-2 formation quite a lot, right? We play it quite a lot. We played that formation against Sheffield United, by the way, and we lost. It was their first win of the season, and we were awful. We were so bad. But now we're playing the same formation, and he's actually Steve versus actually. Well, I would say Graham Jones, but he's actually kind of wanting the fullbacks to attack, which is also why I don't know why Jamal Lewis isn't playing, because that's his game, is pushing forward. Matt Ritchie's done well since he's come back into the side, but overall, a meh game, and I didn't really care. Not that I don't care. I'd obviously like to win, but I'm not now worried we're going to get relegated or something. Player ratings very quickly. Aubameyang getting a 7.7. He didn't have that good a game, but it's just because he scored a goal. Saint-Maximin always has a good game for us, and continues to just kind of control games. It is a wee bit like the tactic is pass the ball to Saint-Maximin and then we'll see what happens. But Arsenal's player ratings are very consistently good. Look,
yeah, apart from Xhaka, I think Xhaka playing left back is not his position, so you feel for him. But good ratings from everybody apart from Pepe and Partey, who came on and were pretty useless. They didn't have an awful lot of time to do anything, but they didn't play well at all. Chambers coming in and keeping the defence sure was good, so fair play to them. But yeah, midfield wise, they played well. Not an awful lot from Willian, not an awful lot from Ceballos, but Martinelli, what a player. What a really, really good player. Today had some really successful dribbles. Passing accuracy was really good. Drew the red card at the end, which was weirdly rash from Cher. Really came out of nowhere.
Also, I'm not really sure if that was, for me, I thought that was a harsh red card. I do get the argument that it wasn't a clear and obvious error. So the commentator actually summed it up very well. He was saying if it had been a yellow, it wouldn't have been overturned. He didn't think, and if it was as a red, it wasn't overturned. Weird challenge, but like I didn't think it was a red.
I didn't really agree with the commentator who was saying, "Oh, weird time to do it. The game is over. It's fizzling out. It's in its dying embers." And I was like, "Well, but Newcastle could still try and score 2 goals here." Newcastle.
We did it at Everton. We did it at Everton last season.
Exactly.
We scored 93rd and 94th minute. So
they should have been going to try and score those goals. So I don't agree with that, but I do think you're right. If it was a yellow, I would have been like, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
If it's a red, I'm kind of like bit harsh, but also kind of fair enough. But while we were talking about Championship squads, you look at that back five that Newcastle played today.
I know.
Championship defence, terrible. Paul Dummett, Kieran Clark, and Fernandez. There's a reason they have to play 3 of them, and it stops the attack from being good. It's because all 3 of them are useless.
I mean, the only reason Cher didn't start was because he's coming back from injury. I quite like Fabian Cher. I think he's good.
He's good.
There was a while there where Paul Dummett was playing left back over Jamal Lewis, and I honestly was like, does Steve Bruce have any clue? Like, has he seen Jamal play for Northern Ireland? I know. I do joke that I think Jamal Lewis is the world's best footballer. It is a joke, but I really do love Jamal Lewis. I think when he plays for Northern Ireland, I always think he's great. He's like we were discussing kind of previously about how Hector Bellerin isn't a great defender, but he's a great attacking fullback. And I think Jamal Lewis has the potential to be a great attacking fullback. He's one of those players that he's not the strongest. He's going to need a bit of support from his inside centre-back, but get him up the pitch. Like he plays some great football up the pitch. So for me, I think he needs to move to a Championship club because his growth's been completely stunted now because he's not getting played.
To be honest, I think Jamal Lewis should put a phone call in to Eric Choupo-Moting's agent and say, mate, sort me out here. Because Jamal Lewis would do absolute bits playing for PSG. He would be great. He would be so good because he's an attacking player. It's what they need. He's better than Bakker, who played midweek. He'd be decent enough. It's never going to happen, obviously. It's wildly hypothetical, but I do think Jamal Lewis could actually do all right in other places. But yeah, Matt Ritchie, championship player. John Joe Shelby, again, like a Sigurdsson, kind of 5 out of 10 every week, but he'll score randomly and then like destroy a Horcrux or something, and then and then that'll be that. But yeah, Newcastle not great today, but as you say, I'm exactly the same as Stoke. We lost 2-0 to QPR yesterday, and I was like, we're 14th in the league. We're not getting relegated. Meh, just a bit fed up. But hey, that's that, and that's all the games from this weekend for the Premier League. There are 2 games tomorrow night, which on paper sound relatively boring, but Burnley, West Ham. Burnley, to be fair, if they play like they played last week against West Ham, we've been playing well recently, could actually be quite a good game, but I don't back Burnley to play like they played last week. And then West Brom Wolves, we briefly touched on earlier as well.
Yeah, and while we were chatting about Newcastle, Jacob had some great points in the chat. So Jacob's a United fan himself. And he said, I think the fans were heard today. I don't agree with violence, but if fans don't storm the pitch, it would not have been big enough to catch the reaction of the world that they postponed the biggest game, which is exactly what we were saying, Luke. And actually, he's put that very, very well. Actually, I think, Jacob, you've put that excellently. Didn't lose, so City didn't win the league. That's a good point also. Jacob, I think you're right. I think that's exactly what we had talked about earlier on, about how we would never, ever encourage violence, but the impact that going on the pitch had would not have had the same impact had they just stayed outside the ground. Been a weird weekend in the end, because we were hoping to talk about a 0-0 draw today, and instead we were left with the protests. But we do have European football this week coming up, which means we'll be back on Wednesday night and Thursday night. Maybe, are you free on Thursday night?
Absolutely.
So
but if you'd like to remind yourself of our predictions, go on over to Spotify and Google Podcasts, because there's bonus extra content for people who listen on podcasts. You'll get an intro that Joe and I share a little bit just about ourselves, and an outro that maybe shares our predictions on those games. So check us out, Spotify, Google Podcast, for lovely bonus extra content.
Apple Podcast should be coming soon. It takes very long to process. I was silly. I didn't think to kind of set up the podcast before we were doing it, so I only set up on Wednesday night, so it might be another week before that gets sorted. But you Apple Podcast guys, we're not ignoring you, all right? We will give you a platform, but the condition is that when we're on Apple Podcasts, you must give us a 5-star rating, because if you don't, we will cry for many, many weeks.
Absolutely. And Joe, we approach 9 o'clock. The line of duty is about to start for everybody out there who wants to watch it. The finale, I believe. I don't watch it, but I respect those that do. So we should probably wrap up and let everybody go and watch that, or do whatever they're going to do. But it's been a pleasure. Hope you all have enjoyed listening to Joe and I waffle and ramble, and our lovely guest Gareth as well, and share our thoughts from the weekend's football. It's been nuts, but that's the beautiful game that we love, football.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you are watching back, be sure to hit the like button on the stream, and subscribe to the YouTube, because bada bing, bada boom, we're trying to get to 100 subscribers by the time the Euros start. So if you want to help us out in that, we'd really, really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this show, let us know first also. And if you enjoyed it, share it with your mates. Get a screenshot of you listening to the podcast up on your Instagram stories. Tag me on @StattoJoe there on your stories. Let us know you're listening. Let us know your thoughts. We would love to hear your feedback, because it really helps us try and improve the show. We're only beginners. Do you know what I mean? We're only beginners in the podcast game, so we really are trying to improve. But honestly, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, your contributions, all that good stuff. And we'll see you on Wednesday night at 10 p.m. And we'll be talking about Man City versus Chelsea in the Champions League final. So We'll see you then. Look, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe, and see you soon.
See you soon.